My thanks to Bring Me to Life Radio, and welcome to the Cinema Scribe. Children frequently delight in the power of magic. They appreciate the wonder it engenders, and they often look on in wide-eyed awe at what it can produce. But somewhere along the line, many of us lose that sense of amazement as we age, believing that such notions are little more than foolish, childish fantasies. What's worse, due to difficulties in many of our lives, some of us may never discover the joys of this endearing aspect of life, denying us one of the tremendous pleasures of childhood. And unfortunately, in either case, we often end up divorced from the skills and mindset that a genuine belief in magic affords us, separated from valuable tools that can help us achieve happiness and fulfillment in life. When this happens, we need something to help us discover or rediscover what we've lost or never found. The kind of fun-filled intervention offered by a specially gifted miracle worker in the long-awaited sequel to a Disney musical classic, Mary Poppins Returns. Times are tough in Depression-era London, and even those who were once relatively well-off are experiencing the financial pinch of the Great Slump. So it is for the family of Michael Banks, played by Ben Whishaw, a middle-aged aspiring artist and temporary bank employee who struggles to make ends meet for himself and his 3 children. But monetary worries are the least of his troubles. He's also wrestling with the grief of the recent loss of his wife, as well as the chaos of living in a house that's gradually becoming run down. He gets some help from his housekeeper, Ellen, played by Julie Walters, and his social activist sister Jane, played by Emily Mortimer. But the ever-growing list of challenges weighs heavily on him. If all that weren't bad enough, though, an even bigger setback occurs when the bank holding the mortgage on Michael's home announces that it's about to foreclose on the property. The beleaguered Mr. Bank has less than a week to make good on his delinquent payments or risk losing the house. To cope with this, Michael and Jane appeal their case to the chairman of the bank, Mr. Wilkins, played by Colin Firth, who appears to sympathize with their plight, but doesn't offer any particularly special accommodations, despite the long-standing relationship that he and the institution have with the family. Needless to say, these challenges make for pretty glum conditions in the bank's household. As world-weary adults, Michael and Jane have lost much of the happy-go-lucky spunk that they relished when growing up. And the children, who by their own initiative have commendably stepped up to take on more responsibilities, are nevertheless missing out on many of the joys of youth that all kids should be allowed to experience. Something clearly needs to be done to turn things around, but considering what the family is up against, it's obvious that a miracle is what's really needed. Enter Mary Poppins, played by Emily Blunt, the whimsical, wondrous nanny who helped raise Michael and Jane. She arrives out of the blue, apparently not having aged a day in 30 years, to help with the upbringing of a new generation of Banks children, as well as to help Michael and Jane recover some of the joy that they had once had, but have since lost. Together with an old friend, a kindly lamplighter named Jack, played by Lin-Manuel Miranda, her eccentric cousin Topsy, played by Meryl Streep, and an assortment of colorful live and animated cohorts, Mary introduces the Banks children to an array of extraordinary experiences that provide them with fun times and a host of valuable and practical life lessons. At the same time, Mary helps her former charges to rediscover what they had forgotten, easing their burdens and restoring their faith in the magic that makes life worth living. While Mary has retained many of the charms she possessed from her previous go-round, as seen in this film's 1964 predecessor, Mary Poppins, there are some new subtle differences in her character. For instance, given the hardships of the 1930s and the challenges the Banks family faces, Mary is more of a realist this time out, recognizing the seriousness of the circumstances and bringing a practical attitude along with her, one focused on solving problems yet never losing sight of the quaintness, eccentricity, and creativity that help to distinguish her personality, outlooks, and methods. What's more, Mary is also a bit saucier this time, a bearing more reflective of the times and the sensibilities of contemporary movie audiences, and less unrealistically saccharine-encrusted. The result is a Mary Poppins who is readily recognizable, but more in step with the times during which the story is set, and for the time that the film is being released. What hasn't changed, though, is Mary's fondness for working her magic through song. In a series of skillfully orchestrated musical numbers involving singing, dancing, and animation, Mary, Jack, the children, and an assortment of kindreds joyfully convey their messages and work their magic for the benefit of one another as well as those watching from the audience. It's good to see that some things don't change. The messages that come through are valuable ones too, especially for impressionable young minds and those who can use a fresh new perspective. In virtually every instance, Mary and company stress the magic attainable in life, provided we allow it. On a number of occasions during the film, Mary makes it plain that anything is possible as long as we believe in the outcome. To accomplish such ends, she encourages us to take such steps as adopting new perspectives, envisioning what we want, breaking through limitations that hold us back, and confidently and playfully facing our fears. Taken together, they can work real magic. It's heartening to see a picture that encourages its viewers, especially young ones, to embrace these concepts. The messages may come dressed up in a pretty, colorful package, but the information they impart is undeniably important, lessons that will undoubtedly prove useful on our respective journeys. And the sooner we learn them, the more ingrained they'll likely become as part of our mindset for life. Way to go, Mary. In the interest of full disclosure, I was skeptical about this release and wasn't particularly looking forward to seeing it. I must admit, however, that I enjoyed it much more than I was expecting, especially since remaking classics or creating sequels to them is very risky business, and something that often makes me cringe. This offering does justice to the original thanks to its excellent production values and many fine performances. Its enjoyable soundtrack isn't quite as memorable as its predecessor, but unlike many contemporary musicals, it's far from forgettable. Emily Blunt pays perfect homage to the legendary character and is worthy of whatever acclaim that comes her way. And kudos are definitely due to its fine cast of supporting players. The film is, unfortunately, somewhat episodic, using the sometimes thin narrative between musical numbers mostly as a bridge to link the songs to one another. Otherwise, though, this is a capably made and surprisingly delightful release. And even though critical acclaim for this film has been a little soft, the picture has nevertheless fared well in awards competitions, earning numerous nominations. Those familiar with my work know that I seldom write about children's films, as they're simply not part of my target audience, and many of them don't meet the criteria for my review selections. However, when a picture comes along that can entertain the little ones, and, one would hope, teach them some valuable life lessons, then I'm more than happy to give them a look in hopes that their parents will take them to see these movies for both fun and perhaps a little enlightenment. Mary Poppins Returns is just such a film, one that the kids are sure to enjoy. And who knows, their folks may get something out of it too, just like Michael and Jane Banks. Finding satisfaction in life can often be challenging enough in itself, but without a belief in the power of magic, one of the forces that can help to bring it about, the process can be that much more problematic. Thus, it's in our best interest to keep sight of this force for good and cultivate it whenever we can. Considering the alternative, it's really not too much to ask of ourselves. Indeed, we truly have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The magical Mary Poppins reminds us of this, and if we know what's good for us, we had better listen to her. I'm Brent Marchant, the Cinema Scribe. Thanks for listening.
A lifelong movie fan and longtime student of metaphysics, Cinema Scribe Brent Marchant is the award-winning author of Get the Picture, Conscious Creation Goes to the Movies, Consciously Created Cinema, The Movie Lover's Guide to the Law of Attraction, and Third Reel Conscious Creation Goes Back to the Movies, all of which provide reader-friendly looks at how the practice of conscious creation, also known as the Law of Attraction, is illustrated through film. Brent maintains an ongoing blog about metaphysical cinema and other self-empowerment topics through his website, www.brentmarchant.com. He's also the movie correspondent for the Good Radio Network and New Consciousness Review magazine and radio, with additional writing contributions to Smart Women's Empowerment, The Happy Guide, Library Journal, BeliefNet, Vivid Life, New Age News, and Master Heart Magazine. Brent holds a BA in Magazine Journalism and History from Syracuse University. Again, check him out at www.brentmarchant.com.